they know, and it doesn't matter. They were a person who had lived through the Great Depression. And they told me the story of what they had been through in their life, of how their family had lost everything, of how they had gone for months or almost years not knowing what they were going to eat tomorrow. And in case you haven't guessed it, that person today is one of the most joyful people that I have ever met. A person with deep, powerful, abiding joy, such that whenever I see them, they always say to me, Mark, I'm so thankful for what I've got. I'm so thankful for my home. I'm so thankful for my food. Isn't it wonderful what God has given to me? And they don't have that much. And you realize, of course, in that person's case, once you have known what it is not to have a house, then whatever house you have, you are thankful for. Once you have known what it is to be hungry in life, then if somebody gives you a slice of toast, you are the most joyful person in the whole world. That was a person who, because they had suffered deeply, had an understanding that every little thing they had was an incredible blessing. And they lived their life with endless thanksgiving, and out of that thanksgiving, deep, powerful, abiding joy. Now, I don't need to tell you about the other people whom I have met who come from a different generation and who grow up thinking that at the age of 25 they should have all the same things that their parents accumulated through a lifetime of hard work, and the fact that all they can think of is, why don't I have a bigger house? Why can't we afford to take more trips? Why don't we have a better car? I won't even tell you. They have no thanksgiving. They have no joy. Their lives are empty. But you know that already. Let me tell you something else about some joyful people whom I met just in this past week, and maybe it will help you to understand the nature of joy and where it comes from. This past week, I officiated a funeral service for a very close and loving family. It was a funeral in which the husband and father within that family had died, and died far too young. But I learned something absolutely amazing and wonderful from the example that that family gave to me. The person in question had been ill for a significant length of time, and finally went into the hospital. And after some weeks in the hospital, the family was called in, and they were told, when your husband, when your father goes to sleep tonight, he will not wake up tomorrow. The end has come for him. His life is over. And they were deeply saddened and deeply grieved. And they said their goodbyes that night with tears and with broken hearts and sorrow. And then the most amazing thing happened. The next morning, the gentleman woke up and he said, "Good morning, I'm still here." And through that day, they shared all the most wonderful stories of their lives together. They shared their joy and their happiness and their peace. They held hands, they wept together, they laughed and they joked, they told each other of the love that they had one for the other. And at the end of that day, he did die. But the family expressed to me, they said, "Mark, that was the most wonderful and magnificent day of our lives. Because on that day, we gave thanks and we appreciated every breath that our Father drew. And we were so thankful for every smile that he forgave us, and we were so thankful for every time he would touch our hand, and we were so thankful for every laugh he gave us. Because he should have died the day before, but we were given one extra day. And then I thought to myself, my goodness, if only every one of us could live our lives with that deep sense of thanksgiving, understanding that every breath is priceless. Every touch of a loved one's hand is worth more than all the diamonds in the world. Every laugh, every moment, every step is a precious, priceless gift. They came to see that on that last day, and because of that, even in the midst of their deep, powerful grief, they had thanksgiving. Because they had thanksgiving, they had tremendous, powerful, deep joy. I want to tell you 3 other quick things about joy before I wrap up here. Number 1 is this, and this might be very important for some people. Joy comes from the same place from which sadness comes. And I know that seems strange because they are opposite things, but I know that. I know it because I have seen people who have lost a loved one, and the pain that they feel is so profound that they make a decision and they say, I am not going to feel my pain. I cannot bear it. So they cut out that part of them that feels pain, or they deaden that part that feels pain. But that within us which feels pain is the same thing that feels joy. For want of a better word, of course, it is our heart. And I would urge all of you, never deaden that part of you that feels sadness. No matter how sad you are, feel the sadness. Accept the sadness. And if you do that, you will be strengthening that within you that is also capable of feeling joy. Joy does not replace or push out sadness. It lives beside it. Second thing in ending is this. Some people think, well, certain people are joyful and certain people are miserable, and there's nothing at all you can do about it. It's a genetic thing, and that's the way it is, and I'm miserable. And that's not the case. Once you understand the psychological and the emotional and the spiritual apparatus which gives rise to joy within, once you recognize joy comes from being thankful and focusing on the positive and good things rather than from focusing on the miserable and crummy things, you can make an intentional, personal decision. I will be a person who focuses on what I have, not on what I don't have, or could have had, or what I lost. You can make that decision. And even though you cannot decide to be joyful, you can decide to be thankful. And if you are thankful, joy follows naturally, even as good growth in the garden follows the rain and the sun. And finally, always remember this. Joy is one of the gifts of the Holy Spirit. And Jesus has said to us, if you ask for the Spirit, God will give it. God will never withhold it. So you can ask for joy, ask for the Spirit.